Hi guys, it's me Shazza HD and welcome to the Practice 2 Watchalong for the 2019 Chinese Grand Prix, which of course is now going down as a very famous one because of course it is the 1000th Grand Prix in Formula 1 history. It's going to be a fantastic, hopefully, celebration this weekend of just how great Formula 1 is. But today, of course, or this morning, if you're watching this in Europe or the UK, it is going to be practice 2, and it's going to be interesting to see what is the pace between the top teams and the midfield after Bahrain produced, I think, plenty of surprises, and I think we're going to get some surprises in terms of who is quick and who is not here in Shanghai. Hopefully you guys are doing well no matter where you are in the world, whether you're watching this late at night, in the afternoon, if you're in Asia or Australia, or if you are in, say, Europe or the UK, and you're watching this in the morning, then thank you very much for coming along at such an early time and being a part of this stream. I really do appreciate you guys coming along to this stream, but hopefully you guys are doing well. And yeah, practice 2 gets underway in about 30 minutes time, and yeah, we'll get to that soon enough. But before I get to that, I first want to update you guys as to the results of practice 1, which took place about 2 to 3 hours ago in Shanghai, and I'll now reveal what was exactly the results from practice 1. So this is the top 10. Sebastian Vettel was fastest of all, from Lewis Hamilton 2nd, Leclerc 3rd, Verstappen 4th, Bottas 5th, Ricciardo 6th, Gasly in P7, then Kvyat P8, Stroll P9, and Romain Grosjean in P10. And then your bottom 10 is K-Mag, Nico Hülkenberg, Norris, Albon, Raikkonen, Sainz, Perez, Kubica, Russell, and Antonio Giovinazzi, who did not set a lap time. I don't actually know why. He definitely had an issue with his car, but I don't know exactly what it was. Hopefully we'll find out, or I'll find out later on, say later on in the weekend. But there you go, those are the results of practice 1. But now, let me give a small but good preview of practice 2 and just what we can expect from the teams and what I expect to see from the teams in practice 2 and who I think really should have the speed. And who should really be showing the speed in this session. So we'll start off with the Silver Arrows, who I think at this track they will be a bit closer to Ferrari if they are not as quick as Ferrari, which I don't think they're going to be. But yeah, I think Mercedes are going to have still a good car. I think the track... I don't think the track doesn't suit them. I think it does suit them, but just not as much as Ferrari. But I think the car is you know, a good car on this track. It's suited to this track, I think, especially in some of the faster corners. And in practice 1, it looked absolutely fine out on the track. So I think, especially in the first 2 sectors, they're going to have a quick car. But can they have the speed really in a straight line to be as good or even better than Ferrari? I don't think they will. I think Ferrari have a clear advantage when it comes to power right now. And they've even come out and said, Mercedes, that they think it's 0.4 to 0.5 of a second, the gap in horsepower. And from what I've heard and from what I've really seen of the figures, I think that is correct. I think Ferrari, when it comes to straight line speed, without a doubt, have the strongest power unit on the grid. Maybe not for reliability, but when it comes to out and out power, Ferrari have the best power unit. So I think you're really going to see this car doing its best work mainly in the middle sector, but definitely the first 2 sectors over the final sector of the lap. Next up, of course, is Ferrari, who ended up with the fastest time in practice 1. The Ferrari car in the corners, it's a good car in the corners, but it feels as though to me they're really getting the lap time to be the fastest team around this track only really in the final sector. I don't think their car, honestly, in especially the middle sector, but possibly even the first two sectors, to be honest, I don't think the Ferrari is as good as the Mercedes car is. But because the final sector is all about power, because of that long back straight and then a straight after that and then the pit straight, and because they have such enormous power right now, that's really what is giving them the lap time, and that's why I think they do have and they're going to have the best car, definitely when it comes to out and out, say, one lap speed when we get to qualifying as well. So don't expect Ferrari to be fantastic in the corners, but once they get to the final sector, that's where they will really show the speed they do have, especially in a straight line. I don't think the car's bad in the corners again, but I just don't think right now, aerodynamically, it looks as good as their rivals, Mercedes. But still, if they have the power to get or have the fastest car, then that is all that matters, of course. But we'll move on from Ferrari and go on to Red Bull, who I think Red Bull will be closer at this Grand Prix than they were in Bahrain. And maybe even Melbourne to say the top of the timesheets in practice, qualifying, or the results in the Grand Prix. I think this is probably the best track for that car they've come to, or we've come to so far in the calendar, because it's the most aerodynamically efficient out of the first three races on the calendar. And then after this race, of course, you then have Baku, which is mainly about straight line speed. And then after that, of course, you have Spain and Monaco, where they probably will do very well. But Shanghai, in the first two sectors, you need, aerodynamically, for sure, you need a very, very good car and a balanced car in Shanghai. And I think they do have that. I think, you know, in Bahrain, of course, they weren't great. But you have to remember, Bahrain is kind of a power track, and even though the Honda power unit isn't bad, it's still not as good as the Ferrari or, of course, the Mercedes power unit. So you wouldn't expect Red Bull to be mega, you know, overall around a lap in Bahrain. But here, because the first two sectors are really about grip, balance, and the aerodynamics of the car, I think Red Bull are going to be closer to the top. I still don't think they'll have a car that can seriously compete for being fastest or say getting the race win on Sunday, but they're going to be closer, and I think for them that's all that really matters. And hopefully they are closer, because we want to see Red Bull make it hopefully a three-way fight. But I'll move on from the top teams and I'll go on to the midfield. And then once I finish with the midfield, guys, I'll come to you guys in the live chat and get your thoughts on who do you expect to be good and not so good this weekend, and what you really expect from this practice session. Next up, go on to Renault. Renault, first two races, not good. Qualifying has been, or one lap speed has been quite disappointing for Renault. The race pace has been good, but the one lap speed just has not. Now, there is maybe good news for Renault. They have got a new MG UK for both Renault drivers, and also they've got a new MG UK, I think, for the two McLaren drivers, but I know it's definitely Lando Norris that has one. So that's good news in terms of reliability, that Renault are trying to fix this, because it has hampered them so much so far in 2019 that they can't get out of the car what they think is really there. So it's nice to see they're bringing improvements to that area, but will they have the speed at this track? If you look at the past, they really should, because historically this has been a good track for this team. But after what I've seen in the first two races, I'm not sure what to think of Renault. I'm not sure if we're going to get a good performance or good speed from the car, or if they're going to be poor. I don't know. We'll have to see, I guess. But I think this race, and I said this plenty of times back in Bahrain, but this Grand Prix will prove where they are struggling the most, because this track, what it tests really is aerodynamic grip, but also straight line speed. In Bahrain, it's more so straight line speed, and then Melbourne, it is more so on the aerodynamic or high speed aerodynamic side when it comes to the car. But if they are, say, poor in the first two sectors but great in the final sector, then it's the aerodynamics which are not good enough. But if it's the other way around, then again, we know what the issue is. So I'm very interested to see where Renault, not necessarily to the top teams, but to the other midfield teams, where are they losing that speed? I'm interested to see exactly where they are losing the speed, and hopefully we get a good chance to see that in practice too. Next up is McLaren, who of course in Bahrain were absolutely brilliant and had one of the best cars in the midfield. I think they can repeat that this weekend. It's going to be a tough battle. It's going to be a tough battle for those two drivers, Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris, but it is possible for McLaren to repeat that. And in practice too, I think we'll get an idea of how quick they can be, because in practice one, they weren't that quick. I think they were only 13th and 15th or 13th and 16th. But practice two, of course, held in more representative conditions, and they'll be properly pushing for the first time this weekend, especially compared to practice one. So I'm interested to see how quick their car is. It should be a contender for the top 10 with at least one car when it comes to one lap speed. So hopefully they can at least get a car into the top 10, because I think with the car they have at the moment, they really should. Next up is Alfa Romeo. In practice one, not that special, but I think they were running a different program and they had some issues with Antonio Giovinazzi's car. But honestly, coming into this weekend, I'm not expecting them to be that good. They weren't that good when they were Sauber last year at this track. I don't think this track will necessarily suit the Alfa, in the right areas. I don't think the Alfa Romeo and its strengths can really be shown here in Shanghai. I think a track like Bahrain is a better track for this car. That's not to say they're going to be bad or anything. I still think they're going to be very competitive, and the final sector will make them very competitive, because the Ferrari power unit, of course, that they do have is the best in the business right now. But aerodynamically, don't expect too much, honestly, from Alfa. I'm not expecting that much from this team. Next up is Haas. Haas, I don't think are going to be that good this weekend. They may get a decent qualifying position. They may have good one lap speed, but when it comes to race pace, I don't think they're going to be that good at all, because in Bahrain, their race pace was terrible, and I think that was because of tyres. In Shanghai, as we know, tyres are critical at this track, especially keeping your tyres together and not destroying them with tyre wear. And I think Haas are really going to be proven again, even in practice too, when they go to the race simulations. It's going to be proven that Haas do not have a good race car, and I don't expect them to here in Shanghai. Again, they may have the one lap speed, but when it comes to race pace, I just don't think they're going to be that competitive, honestly. I think they even may be less competitive compared to Alfa Romeo, honestly, but we'll see how they do. Next up is Toro Rosso, who historically tend to do well here. They didn't do that well last year, but historically they have done well at this track. But considering what they were like in Bahrain, where I thought they were going to be good, I'm not expecting a great weekend from this team. I think when it comes to one lap pace, I think they're going to be around where they were in Bahrain, say P12, P13, somewhere like that. But I think once we get to the race simulations in practice 2, you'll start to see how good the Toro Rosso car is, and also you'll see that the Toro Rosso car, and it's been this way for plenty of years now, it's such a good car to have in the race, especially in that ever so tight midfield battle. And I think they'll have very good race pace, but when it comes to one lap speed, it's not going to be that special. Again, it'll be around P12, P13, somewhere like that. Next up, Racing Point. Kind of like Toro Rosso. In terms of one lap pace, I don't think they're going to do anything that special. They will have better race pace, but I don't think they'll be even that great when it comes to race pace. I'm not expecting that much from Racing Point this weekend. This track has never really suited that team since they became Force India. It's never really suited this team. They've never had, you know, a super great result or had great pace at this track, and I don't think they're going to this weekend. And I think they're going to be basically where they were in Bahrain, you know, right in the lower half of the midfield. Maybe in the race simulations they can get closer to teams like Haas or even Alfa Romeo, Renault, because they did that in Bahrain. But honestly, I don't think they really will have the speed to do anything here in Shanghai. And finally, of course, is Williams, who are going to be right at the back. But guys, let me know right now in the live chat, who do you think will be good and not good this weekend? And what do you expect to see from all the teams in practice 2? By the way, we have about 12 minutes to go until the start of practice 2. But yeah, what do you expect to see in practice 2 from all the teams? Who do you think will be good, not so good? Let me know right now in the live chat, and I'll read out your comments for the next 10 minutes or so. And then we will go into practice 2 and watch along that and see for ourselves as to who does have the pace this weekend. Before I read out the live chat, don't forget to subscribe for more Chinese Grand Prix content coming up this weekend, as tomorrow morning I'll be doing the qualifying watch along and the qualifying review live on the channel. So don't forget to subscribe for that. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there, or click on my channel name, go to my channel page and subscribe, and also hit the notifications bell for more content like this. But right, before I go onto the chat also, I'll just cut to a couple pictures as we are now warming up for practice 2. Right, let me take a look at some comments. Matt Stanek says 0.5 in power doesn't seem fishy at all. Yeah, I understand your point, but I think at times last year they had the kind of the same gap, and it was proven that they weren't doing anything illegal. But I don't think they're doing anything illegal. I mean, you know, Mercedes, look at the gap they had in terms of power compared to the other teams or manufacturers back in 2014. It was a second. So it is possible. And Ferrari have put a ton of money when it comes into the power units. They have put a ton of money in to that area. So I wouldn't be that surprised if that was the actual gap when it comes to power. I wouldn't be surprised at all, honestly. Annette says, and I think this is in relation to Renault, God, I hope they improve this weekend or at least don't blow up. And that also says Haas got a new rear wing. Apparently they were waiting for it. Also, another aerodynamic upgrade, actually two. Mercedes have a slightly different version of their front wing here in Shanghai, and Alfa Romeo have a new rear wing as well. And I think Red Bull have aero updates, but I don't know exactly what they are. But I do know again that Mercedes have a slightly different version of their front wing, and Alfa do have a completely new rear wing, as the drivers have been complaining that the rear downforce of the Alfa is not that great and it could be improved. So that's why the Alfa has a new rear wing. Let me now move on to this nice picture of the Toro Rosso sparking away down into turn 1, I believe. Noob Tube, I think it is, says, I hope Daniel at least scores a couple points and that he is his favourite driver. With the way Renault have been in the first 2 races, if they can continue that quite good race pace they do have, then it's possible. But things at Renault, for me, just don't seem to be meshing right now. They don't seem to be clicking. In terms of the drivers with the car, also the car with the power unit. Things right now don't seem to be working out at Renault right now. I think they will get it together soon enough because, you know, they're a massive manufacturer, and I don't think it's gone completely wrong overnight, even though at the end of 2018 they weren't that quick. And you could argue they only had the 6th best car, or even at times the 7th best car. At the end of 2018, things seem to be a bit better at Renault. So yeah, I don't think it's gone wrong overnight. I think they've just maybe got it slightly wrong on their first updates or design to the 2019 car. I think they'll fix it eventually. After Spain, I think we'll see Renault improve. But if they don't, then I think they're in trouble, honestly, because teams like Haas, McLaren, Alfa, even Racing Point, they're going to improve and they'll pull away if they don't step it up. So hopefully Renault do improve, because they've got to improve that car. They cannot afford to be stuck in the midfield. They've got to now be pulling away from the midfield and not be still competing with teams that are way smaller, such as Haas and Racing Point and even Toro Rosso. They cannot afford to be competing with teams like that. By the way, guys, we have about 7 minutes to go until the start of practice 2 in Shanghai. So there you go. NoobTube also says no chemistry between the team. Interesting to read, actually. Daniel Ricciardo, and this is another point, Ricciardo came out and said that even after the Bahrain test that they did after the Bahrain Grand Prix weekend, he still isn't that confident in the car. He still doesn't have the confidence that he had, say, in the Red Bull last year. Even though the Red Bull wasn't always to his liking, he still was confident with the package that he did have. But with Renault at the moment, he doesn't have the confidence to really get the speed out of the car, I guess, at the moment. And that might take a bit of time for him to get that speed out of the car. But one thing it does remind me of is kind of similar to Carlos Sainz with Renault last year. Carlos had a similar thing. He didn't connect that well with the Renault car in the first half of the season. But then once he did, by that time it was too late because he was already dropped by Renault for 2019. But once he did connect with the car in the second half of the season, he was better than Hulkenberg. So Ricciardo has got to be careful that he doesn't leave it too long to really get dialed in with this car, because in Formula One, as we know, things can move very, very quickly. I'll move on to this picture of the Red Bull. By the way, I just saw a comment saying we'll be live streaming the practice. I can't show live footage of practice because my channel would get copyright striked, and there would be no way I could ever upload a video again. It just wouldn't happen. So that's not what's going to happen. What I'm going to do is show as many pictures live from practice as I can. I'll also have a running order running along the bottom of the screen with the current live order of what is going on. And during the session, I'll be commentating on what is going on. So don't worry, I'll keep you guys updated constantly as to what is going on. George Prince, both McLarens through to Q3, I reckon. I'm going to wait on that. Because, I don't know, I'm not too sure about their performance in Shanghai. I'm not 100% sure of what their pace is going to be like. I think they can get a car into the top 10. But, can they get both cars in? Again, I don't know. We'll have to see. Their performance and pace really in practice one was not that good. Wasn't that good at all. So, yeah, I think this practice session will really tell us, for McLaren at least, and also teams like Renault and especially Alfa Romeo, whether those teams can actually have enough speed this weekend to contend properly for the positions that they want to contend for. But now we have about 3 minutes, I think, until the start of practice 2. So, because of that, I will now get the running order running. So there you go. This is not the current running order. This is just, championship, or not championship order, but, team by team from last year's constructors. So the 2 Mercedes drivers, Ferrari, Red Bull, Renault, Haas, McLaren, so on and so forth. I'll update the order once, I can update it once the practice session does start, with about 2.5 minutes to go until the start of practice 2, as we're now seeing images from the track. By the way, I just want to shout out Daniel Ricciardo. And by the way, another thing I want to shout out is Ted Kravitz being back. Finally, Ted is back. He's back in Shanghai, back in the pit lane, back everywhere. Great to see. He should be at every F1 race weekend. There is no reason, unless, he has something going on with his family or some personal stuff, there's no reason that guy should not be at a Grand Prix. Ted Kravitz is one of the best reporters in Formula One. It's a crime for him not being at certain races. It is honestly a crime. So thank God he is back this weekend. But I just wanted to say, Daniel Ricciardo's helmet, if you haven't seen it, it's basically a replica of Jack Brabham's helmet from back in the day. It's basically just a silver helmet that Brabham had, but except Ricciardo has his name and then his number written on the side. So nice touch there from Daniel, and a nice throwback, even though it's not a helmet we actually remember, honestly. But I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if all the drivers could, say, use old helmets from, say, their heroes or ex-drivers of that team? That'd be cool, I think. Like Hamilton using Senna's helmet, Vettel using Schumacher's. I know George Russell is using not a replica, but something that's inspired by Juan Pablo Montoya's helmet. So that's nice to see. But it'd be nice to see like a tribute from all the drivers to past drivers with their helmets, say at a special occasion like this, the 1000th Grand Prix in Formula One history. But now we are about a minute away from the start of practice 2. The working Toro Rosso are working on Danny Kvyat's car right now. By the way, if I sound like I have a sore throat, it's because I do. If I don't have a sore throat, then something is seriously wrong, guys, because I always do. So sorry if I do have to clear my throat, but I mean, come on, it's a usual occurrence now, isn't it? Me clearing my throat. But there you go, and the green flag has gone, so practice 2 is underway. And of course we have 90 minutes of practice 2 left, as Romain Grosjean is about to go out on a set of medium tyres. By the way, when it comes to the tyres, in Bahrain we had C3, C2 and C1 tyres. This weekend it is C4, C3 and C2. So we're a step softer this weekend, and that should promote some good racing on Sunday with the tyres, and some good, different strategies at play and stuff like that. So there you go, as Grosjean is about to come out on the track. He does a practice start and now comes out on the exit of the pit lane, and will now start his first flyer in FP2. I'll just quickly show a picture of not the current World Championship leader, but the only current 5-time world champion on the grid, using an interesting way to get to his pits to do practice 2. There you go. There is Lewis Hamilton. Of course, we've seen this used even more and more by him last year, of course, as we now have Giovinazzi, Magnussen, Grosjean and Norris out on the track. So the first laps are coming, guys, probably in the next couple minutes. Hopefully we will have our first laps of practice 2. But right, here we go. So Giovinazzi is about to do a lap, is he, on the medium tyres? Not the medium tyres, the hard tyres. They look like last year's medium tyres, but they are the hard tyres, of course, for 2019. Here comes Antonio down into turn 1, sparking away. And now the car does not look that good in the first section of the track. I just saw a comment, by the way, from NN saying, wow, you do watch alongs for practice sessions, and then he says this lad is working hard. The original plan, I did the practice watch along for Australia, and the original plan was to only do a practice watch along for Melbourne, because it's the first Grand Prix weekend and we're all excited for the first Grand Prix weekend. But it did so well and people liked it so much, I decided to do it again for Bahrain, and Bahrain went well, so I'm doing it again, and I'm going to keep doing it basically if the previous one does well. If it starts to drop off, then I'll probably stop doing them, because I wasn't planning on doing them anyway. But if you guys keep tuning in and keep liking them, then I'll keep doing them. Simple as that. As Antonio Giovinazzi in the Alfa Romeo is now heading down the long back straight, down into the hairpin. And no, we can't see the lap, because on Sky Sports we have to see an interview with Christian Horner. Now, if anyone is watching this with the sound on, you would know that we don't need to see him to know what he's saying. We don't need to watch his face saying what he's saying. But Sky Sports have this weird thing that they have to do dual cameras all the time. So weird thing by Sky there. But Antonio Giovinazzi has completed the first lap time of FP2. I don't know what it is yet, but I'll find out in just a moment once they stop Sky F1 showing a dual camera and Christian Horner's face. But the Alpha's sparking away there, so they're running it a bit low. That car, we've now got the... the two Haas's have now gone quicker of Grosjean and Magnussen. Grosjean has done a 1 minute 37 flat. Magnussen has done a 37.6. Giovinazzi a 39.2. So those are the only 3 lap times so far in practice 2. But we now have Norris, who is at the end of his first lap on the, the hard tyre. So Norris on the hard tyre. So these are just cycle laps. They're not proper, qualifying style laps. They're just trying to find their feet in practice 2. And he comes across the line and goes fastest by, 0.2 a second. Yeah, he does. Actually, it's by a 1/10.5, not 0.2 a second. But there you go. So Norris fastest on a 36.8. And then Grosjean second on a 37.0, the Magnussen third on a 37.6, and then Giovinazzi fourth on a 39.2. I will stress though that only 4 of the 20 drivers have set a lap time. We still have another 16 drivers that can set a lap, as Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari is now out on the circuit on the hard tyre. So they're all trying to use up that hard tyre and save that for qualifying and even the race. Or not that tyre, but the softer tyres. They're trying to save that more for the important stuff, as Magnussen just running over an exit curb and kicking up some AstroTurf. Is it? Oh no, it's something from the back of the Haas, some kind of bodywork. I don't think that'll do too much damage to the back of his car. It wasn't anything dramatic that fell out the back of his car. Here's another picture of the scenes in Shanghai. But here comes Sebastian Vettel starting his first lap in practice 2 on the hard tyre. Lando Norris is fastest on the hard compound tyre. Here comes Vettel to the end of the first sector and is already 0.7 of a second out. So that just shows you how quick the Ferrari car is in relation to the McLaren. And once we get later on the faster tyres, you'll really see the difference between those two cars, as the Ferrari does look very good in the fast corners in the middle sector. Now comes up to this double left apex, and now is coming up to the middle sector point and is looking pretty good. But now we are watching Martin Brundle talking from trackside, which is rather annoying. As honestly, I'd rather watch what's going on track, but Sky F1 do this all the time. Constantly switching cameras, dual screens, dual cameras for no reason. It's just really pointless. I'd honestly just let the track action do it for its do the entertainment for them, instead of them trying to create entertainment where there really isn't any. So yeah, this is not particularly interesting, as Martin Brundle is talking really about the first 3 or 4 corners, and Lewis Hamilton has just spun off at, what turn is that? That's turn 3, I think, or turn 4. He spun and they caught it with Martin Brundle. That's a very embarrassing spin, and that's of course happened because he's on cold medium tyres. So that's a very embarrassing spin for Lewis Hamilton, but I'm sure he will recover from that and get on his way. But now we're still watching Martin Brundle. I have no idea what is actually going on. So guys, if you are watching, sorry that I can't update you as to what the lap times are, but Sky F1, who, I'm watching their broadcast, they're not telling us what is actually going on. We're just watching cars on track at turn 4 or turn 3 going round the corner, and we're not actually seeing what is the lap times right now. This is very, very frustrating. But there you go. NN says in the live chat, Mercedes are under pressure to match Ferrari. Seems they're a long way behind. I don't think they're a long way behind. I'm interested though to see how the battle between the two shapes up in terms of pace this weekend, because I think if this certain thing that I'm thinking of becomes true, that I think is kind of apparent right now, then I think I know basically where the important parts in the battle are between the two top, of course, manufacturers, Mercedes and Ferrari. As now we have some lap time data. Charles Leclerc is fastest, from Sebastian Vettel second, and then Raikkonen is in P3. So Charles Leclerc fastest on a 34.2. Still though, only 9 out of the 20 drivers have actually set a lap time. So I'm going to wait until F1 set a lap, until I update my order, and then I will do it then. As Valtteri Bottas is now coming through the middle sector, 0.6 of a second off, runs wide at turn 12, I think that is. Here's a replay of Lewis Hamilton spinning, and yeah, that's cold tyres for you. That's cold tyres. Turned in, put the foot down, or put his foot down slightly too hard, and the car spun around. As Perez has gone up to third on 36.0. Quite good lap there. Here comes Valtteri Bottas towards the end of the lap. Final corner on the hard compound tyre. And he will go into P3. Or no, goes P2 ahead of Sebastian Vettel. And does, interestingly, the fastest final sector. As Ricciardo now goes up to P4. This is Bottas. And Bottas did the same thing on the hard compound. How embarrassing. How embarrassing for the two drivers. Bottas did a practice start out of the pit lane, went into turn 1, applied the power slightly and spun and did a full 360. And Lewis Hamilton, a couple of corners later on the mediums, spun his car around. That's crazy. I've never seen that happen. That is crazy. But there you go. Formula 1 can be a bit like that at times. As, yeah, Ricciardo is P4 at the moment in the Renault. And now we're getting more dual cameras from Sky F1 when we don't need to see this. So, yeah, Leclerc is fastest from Bottas, Vettel, Ricciardo, Albon, Perez, Raikkonen, Stroll, Norris, Grosjean, Magnussen, Giovinazzi, Russell, Kubica. Then Hamilton, but Hamilton has not set a proper lap time. Let me just clear my throat there because it's giving out a bit. But we still haven't had a proper lap from Hamilton, Hülkenberg, Gasly, Kvyat or Verstappen. I think though there's an issue with Kvyat's car. I don't know what it is, but I think there might be an issue. But when it comes to that spin, let me show you exactly what I'm on about, as Lewis Hamilton on the medium is now on a lap. He's 3.5 tenths down after 2 sectors, and is now in the final sector, and now comes on to the back straight. There's traffic ahead, a Ferrari and a Williams. But there you go. That's Lewis Hamilton spinning on what is the exit of, I guess, turn 3. And he spun again because of cold tyres, as at the hairpin locks up and goes wide. This is live I'm talking about. Locks up and goes wide. And this is not going to be a good lap time from Hamilton. It's been a scruffy lap on the medium tyres. And he, goes P4, 1.1 seconds slower than Charles Leclerc, 1 minute 35.4. But these lap times are not, they're not bad considering what tyres they're on, but they're not that quick compared to what we're going to see later on in practice 2. And also the track conditions, I don't think are exactly ideal right now in Shanghai. Yeah, hopefully in a moment we'll have a complete order so I can update the running order to what it actually is, but we still haven't had everyone set a lap. As Pierre Gasly's now on a lap on the medium tyres. He is 0.3 of a second down on Leclerc after the first sector. Now comes into the middle sector, sparking away that Red Bull. So nice to watch, sparking along the ground. Let's see how he has done time-wise in the middle sector. The Red Bull in the middle sector does look good. It does look very, very good. But he is still, or even worse, he is 3/4 of a second down on Leclerc and the Ferrari. And now comes into the final sector where the Red Bull loses all of its speed. So this will probably put him maybe even behind Hamilton, who made a clear mistake at the hairpin. But I just want to read out a comment from Indrajit Singh, I think it is. Sorry if I've mispronounced your name, but he says, Gasly is no good, bring back the torpedo. I think let's wait before we say something like that, as Gasly, talking of, goes P6 behind Carlos Sainz. That's not that impressive of a lap time there from Pierre Gasly on the medium compound tyre. But yeah, there you go. But now we have Max Verstappen on a lap. And yet Max is in the middle sector. So once he completes this lap, then I will update the running order as to what it actually is. As he's now coming through the double left apex. Grabs a cheeky slipstream from Valtteri Bottas. Only 0.3 down on Leclerc after the first two sectors, and he's about 0.4 of a second up so far on Pierre Gasly. That's embarrassing for Gasly. Really is. As Max now will open the DRS and heads down towards the hairpin. Barking away. Brakes. Car turns in absolutely fine. Good traction, and now heads to the final corner. Quick left on the power, and now opens the DRS again, and he goes second. And what tyres was he on? I think the mediums. So not that bad of a lap. Not bad. Not anything special, but not bad. But I will say, he was way faster than Pierre Gasly. I think a second the gap is between the two. That is a bit embarrassing for Pierre. But there you go. But now I will first, for the first time, hold on, let me just wait a moment, because I think Lewis Hamilton is about to improve on his lap time. Here he comes. Yeah, I think he is. Opens the DRS, and does he improve or not? Oh, he goes fastest as Lewis Hamilton on the medium tyres, but Charles Leclerc, who is second, only half a tenth off, is on the hard tyre. So not that great of a lap time, honestly, there from Lewis Hamilton. The Mercedes car is not looking that competitive. But now, I will update the order. So you got Hamilton currently in first. And then Charles Leclerc is second. Max Verstappen is in third place. And then you got Valtteri Bottas in fourth. And then Sebastian Vettel in fifth. As we've got a Renault on a lap here. I think it's Nico Hülkenberg. Yeah, Vettel is fifth. Sixth is now Nico Hülkenberg. Has now gone sixth on the hard tyre. So, good lap there by Nico Hülkenberg. And then you've got Sainz in P7. Hold on a minute. Let me just clear my throat. I don't know why, but it feels very especially sore today. I don't know why. I mean, it feels sore all the time, but today it feels very sore for some reason. Hopefully this doesn't get any worse. Yeah, Sainz 7th, Gasly 8th, and then Ricciardo in P9. P10 Albon, not bad. Not bad for Albon. We've got a Racing Point here. I think but it's Stroll. Let's see where Stroll goes as he wiggles the rear on the final corner. Stroll improves his lap time but stays in P12. So there you go. So Albon P10, Perez P11, and then Stroll is in P12. Kimi Räikkönen is P13. And then in 14th, you have Lando Norris, who is not having the greatest time this weekend. It is his first ever time at this track. So maybe that's what it is. But yeah, he's not looking, well, hasn't really looked that great this weekend, honestly, has Lando. But yeah, you got Grosjean 15th. And then Magnussen in 16th. And then 17th is Giovinazzi. And then Kubica, Russell, and Kvyat at the back. Kvyat, though, I will stress, has not set a lap time. Because I think he has some kind of issue with the car. I don't know what it is. But they do have the floor off, I think, on that Toro Rosso. So there's something wrong. I don't know what it is, but there is something wrong with that car. But the running order running along the bottom of your screen is the current live order of what is going on. By the way, again, apologies when it comes to my throat. I try my best, to make sure it's not sore, but it's always sore. So there you go. But I'll try. And oh no, there's not another picture at the moment. Nib, who's in the chat, says, well, Sunday he can give his throat a rest. Absolutely, because you'll be on there and you'll be able to talk plenty of times during the stream. But yeah, my throat already is not doing too well. And Mr. Random Guy is saying, yep, your throat is literally always sore. Some people are like that. Some people just always have sore throats, and I'm one of those people that just always has a sore throat or something wrong with my throat. So there you go. Savuth Zach, I think his name is. If I've mispronounced that, I'm so sorry. But he says, let's go Max and Team Red Bull. Max and Red Bull looking good at the moment. NN says or asks, kind of, Mercedes car seems oversteery a bit. It doesn't seem that great when it comes to the rear end of the car. I have noticed that, especially on the exit of the slower corners. But as we're seeing a replay here of Bottas locking up into, I think that is turn 6. Yeah, I think that is turn 6. But yeah, I've noticed on the exit of the slow corners, the Mercedes car is not looking too good, and it does look to have a bit of oversteer. So not looking too great for the Silver Arrows. Indrajit Singh, does Bottas still have his beard? I think he does, and I think he'll be keeping that. Probably only for promotional reasons for 2019. But yeah, I think he does. And also, if you're wondering, yes, Sebastian Vettel still has his, I guess, Nigel Mansell-ish moustache. Even though if that is what he's going for, it's nowhere near as good as Mansell's. Mansell has the best moustache or facial hair that there has ever been in F1. Nigel Mansell has the best facial hair in the history of Formula 1, no doubt about it. And he also says, I'm hating this 1000th race BS. It's just like any other number. Well, it's more so just, a celebration of Formula 1 and stuff like that. that's really what the 1000th race is about. But I will say, I feel as though the actual, I don't know, the celebration at the track so far has been a bit underwhelming, honestly. So I'm hoping for race day they can put on like a great pre-race build-up at the track for the fans to really home in on the fact that it's the 1000th Grand Prix in Formula One history. But I don't, I don't think it's going to be maybe as good, say, the celebration as it has been, or not that it has been, or that it should be, because Formula One, 1000 races, it should be a massive celebration. But I get the feeling it might not be as good as it should be. Ricky Sanguinetti, I think it is. Hopefully I've pronounced that right. He says, had same throat issues and someone recommended a nut from Amazon called Bitter Cola. It is wonderful. Maybe I will have to try something like that out. I also, I drink stuff like orange and stuff like that to try and help it, and it does. But again, I think naturally a person that has a sore throat. So there you go. But right now on Sky F1, we are in an advert break. So if you're expecting me to talk about what's going on, I can't really tell you right now because we do have an ad break, which is very, very frustrating. Femi CEO says, thanks, my Sky F1 won't show from Austin, Texas. Yeah, that is frustrating, but I'm covering it here, so don't worry, you won't miss out on anything. Except for the stuff during the ad breaks, but I don't think massively interesting stuff is actually going on during the ad breaks. Gina, is Gasly still sandbagging? I hope not. Hopefully he didn't load a load up from Bahrain, because to be a second off his teammate in practice 2 so far is quite embarrassing, honestly. Even if they're on, say, different tyres and Verstappen is on a step softer tyres, that still isn't really explainable, a second gap. So yeah, that's not really, I think, good enough. But now we have, who's this on the hard compound tyre, looking not pushing that hard, is Lando Norris in the McLaren. I don't exactly know what he's actually doing. So yeah, there you go. They're still working, by the way, on Danny Kvyat's car, as Danny Kvyat has not set a lap time. That's why on the running order he is at the very back. He hasn't gone out on the track yet, and it doesn't look as though he will at the moment. If he does, he's going to have a restricted program for sure. But as I was talking a bit about Renault in the build-up to the Practice 2 watch-along, let me just show this picture. Let me just find it. I just had it there a second. I think this is it. Yeah, there you go. This is Nico Hülkenberg in the Renault. Nice camera shot there. In camera of Hülkenberg, who is currently in P6, and he did that lap time on the hard compound tyres. A pretty good lap by Hülkenberg. Eugene Kelly asks, where do you rank Hamilton as an all-time great driver? For me, he is, as plenty of people are saying, at least top 5, but for me, he is currently number 4 in my list. But if he wins the title this year, I'd put him number 3. So there you go. As Lando Norris, I think now, is starting a lap on the hard compound tyre, the Whitewall hard compound, and takes a wide turn in to turn 2 and 3 and 4, and now is heading towards the end of the first sector. He does have traffic. It's a Williams or Russell, I think it is. But Norris looking all right so far in terms of the grip and the handling of his McLaren, as he now comes through these fast corners, the fast left and then the fast right. Not as fast as the left, but still fast. And then you have the double left apex. McLaren not looking great, but not looking bad in those corners. Turns in nicely there to turn 11, I think that was. Now it's turn 12. And now Norris in the McLaren is on the back straight. And we'll open the DRS right about now. And we'll head towards the hairpin. Brakes now around about 100 meters before the corner. Very impressive on the brakes, and he's improving on his laps so far, Norris. So hopefully he does improve. Where does he go? P12 ahead of Lance Stroll on a 36.1. So there you go. But the two Ferraris, by the way, are out on track. Hopefully, and Lewis Hamilton is now, hopefully on the soft compound tyre. As we're actually currently seeing Robert Kubica on the soft compound, who is down in 18th place, is currently massively improving on the lap time he has done. As he's now on the back straight, DRS open, down towards the hairpin. And the Williams, it does look very, very slow, honestly. You can't really avoid that fact. As he now comes to the line and 13th for Robert Kubica, but he is on a fresh set of soft tyres, and the people he's just passed were on the hard compound tyre. So you can't read anything into that, because Raikkonen, Stroll, Grosjean, Magnussen, Giovinazzi, Russell, even his teammate, could probably go faster on the same compound. As Sebastian Vettel has done a fastest first sector in the Ferrari on the soft compound. Hamilton is fastest on the medium so far. That's horrible understeer for Vettel into turn 12, I think that is. But he's so far 0.7 of a second up on Lewis Hamilton. Now comes the back straight where the Ferrari gains all the lap time. Opens the DRS, got a bit of a slipstream from the Force, not the Force India, the Racing Point. So that'll improve his straight line speed. Turns into the hairpin. The exit looks absolutely fine. Now flicks it into the final corner. And opens the DRS and will go comfortably fastest. And there you go, 33.3, 8 tenths faster than Lewis Hamilton. Sebastian Vettel at the moment is fastest of all. By the way, I will update the order once the soft tyre runs have actually finished. Once they have, I will do so, as we now have a trackside camera of Martin Brundle at turn 6. My throat honestly feels like it's burning. It's that sore. So sorry if I don't sound great, but I'm trying my best. I'm honestly trying my best. As watching, there's an Alpha going into turn 6. Heavy braking zone turn 6, and also it's a good corner for overtaking, but it's kind of a tough place to pass as well, because it does really become quite narrow, that corner, especially on the exit, and you have to really place your car in the best place so you can get a move done either around the outside or down the inside. Just look at Daniel Ricciardo's overtake on Valtteri Bottas last year for the win of the Grand Prix. a very, very tight one it was indeed. As this is so frustrating because, I mean, yeah, they're showing Brundle at turn 6, but we want to see the lap times. We don't care about this. Yeah, it looks great. Formula 1 cars, great. We've seen it before. We've seen it. We'll see him again. We don't need this. I feel as though this format of doing Martin Brundle by the track has become a bit played out, to be honest. I mean, he's been doing it for about 3 or 4 years. I just feel as though he's been doing it kind of a bit repetitively. And there's no real corners you can miss anymore on those type of things. As Kimi Räikkönen goes up to P5 on the soft compound, 34.5. Not that great of a lap time, honestly. Not that great of a lap time. Albon, P7, Perez, P8, Magnussen, P9. They've done a soft tyre run. Hulkenberg still P10, and he did his run on the hard tyre. So looking good for Hulkenberg. As is Grosjean got a broken front wing? That front wing looks broken to me on the Haas. It looks like it's down on the left-hand side. Hopefully they show a replay. That front wing looks like it's hanging down and has been clouted against something. I don't know. The front wing there looks a bit broken to me. I thought it looked a bit down. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just my eyes playing tricks on me. But the front wing looked to be down, honestly. But Lewis Hamilton, I think, has done a soft tyre run as well, but only improved by 0.2 of a second. As the gap between Vettel and Hamilton is almost or basically 0.7 of a second. As Valtteri Bottas is on his soft tyre run, looking very quick. Looking very quick in the Mercedes. Done the fastest middle sector. And now comes through turn 12, I think that is. And now is on the back straight. Opens the DRS and now heads towards the hairpin. Let's see where he goes. He could probably go up to P2 with this. I don't think he'll lose that much lap time in the final sector. Leclerc has improved. Not much though. Still P3 is Charles Leclerc. Here comes Bottas though. And goes fastest as Valtteri Bottas by 0.03 of a second. That's interesting from Valtteri Bottas. And Nib says that Grosjean had a front wing failure. It did look like that. It looked down on at least one side of the front wing, and now they're fitting a new front wing to the Haas. But yeah, it did look as though he was had a front wing that was hanging down a bit. So there you go. But now are people starting to pit? Not everyone. You still got the 2 Red Bulls are about to do a lap time, and also the Renault of Nico Hulkenberg, and I think Daniel Ricciardo. As you've got the Red Bull, as Sainz has gone up to P4 on the soft tyres. That's very impressive. Very impressive. As Gasly, I think is about to start. Is about to start a lap. Yes, he is. Opens the DRS. Eugene Kelly asks, why does McLaren have 2 camera bars on the engine cover instead of 1? I don't really know how to answer that, to be honest, because I'm not that educated when it comes to that. Maybe Nib could answer that. I'm not sure, but yeah, I don't really know about that. About that area. I don't really know. As Gasly has done exactly the same first sector time as Valtteri Bottas. That's interesting. He now comes into the middle sector. And Oh, runs a bit wide in one of the corners there. That's going to cost him maybe a tenth. And now he comes up to the end of the middle sector. He's now 3.5 tenths down on Valtteri Bottas. And now is coming through turn 12 and onto the pit straight and will complete his lap pretty soon. And I'll actually show it now, the Grosjean front wing issue, because I've just found a picture that does actually show it. So let me show that now. As Gasly is coming up to the final corner, he turns left now, and he goes, where will he go? P6, behind Carlos Sainz again. Wow. He's only a tenth faster than Verstappen, and Verstappen did his time on mediums. That, Pierre Gasly just doesn't look like he suits that car to me. It just doesn't look like he connects with that car. I don't know, but to me, it doesn't look like Pierre's connecting with that car right now. Right, let me get this picture up of the front wing issue. So there you can see, if you look at the left-hand side from our side, the left-hand side of the front wing, you can see it is down. As Hülkenberg goes P4, by the way, in the Renault, only half a tenth behind Hamilton. That's it. That's very interesting. As Max Verstappen comes to the end of his lap. He's done the fastest first sector oversteer on the final corner. Goes P3, but he probably could have gone a tenth and a half faster. Probably wouldn't have got him up to P2 or P1, but that cost him time for sure. But Max Verstappen, 0.9 of a second faster than Pierre Gasly on the same compound of tyres. And I think that does show you that those two, there's no competition. Max Verstappen is so far ahead of Pierre Gasly when it comes to speed and performance. He really, really is. But there you can see on the screen, Grosjean's failure on the left-hand side of the front wing. I don't know why that is, but there you go. As this is Norris about to complete a lap and goes P8. Norris, to me, I mean, he's only gone a tenth and a half off, but he seems as though to be struggling slightly with this track. Probably because it is his first ever weekend at this track. We've also got Giovinazzi on an out lap. Hopefully he will do a lap in a moment. Here is Daniel Ricciardo. Is he on a lap right now? Yes, he is. So let's see where Ricciardo goes. Hülkenberg P5, only half a tenth behind Lewis Hamilton. Where can Ricciardo go? He's on the back straight with the DRS open. And now heads towards the hairpin. What can Danny Rick do? The hairpin turn-in looks great. Exit looks great. How does he do on this left-hand turn? That looks absolutely fine. And he goes P9. That's disappointing. That's what? That's 2.5 tenths off Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg P5. Ricciardo P9. A bit disappointing, honestly, there by Daniel Ricciardo. But now, I'm going to try now and do the running order. And I think this running order will probably be the final running order of FP2. Because I think now they are going to go for their race simulations now. By the way, Danny Kvyat is now getting into the car. So he will do a lap in just a moment. So he'll be on the track very, very soon. So Bottas is fastest, from Vettel second, Verstappen third, Hamilton fourth. And then Nico Hülkenberg in fifth. Sixth is Carlos Sainz. And then Oh no, we've gone away to a replay. And then P7, I think, is Pierre Gasly, if I'm not mistaken. It was seeing the front wing failure here. I think happened at turn 1, maybe on the bump. Or was it there at turn 6? I don't know. I really don't know. But then you can see on the pit straight, it is clearly down. By the way, again, apologies for the sore throat, but nothing I can do. Honestly, nothing I can do. It's a thing that's, you know, tough for YouTubers. There's nothing we can really do about it. Sometimes this happens because, you know, we talk and commentate so much for you guys. So sorry about that, but there you go. Gasly P7. And then Norris is in P8. Actually, Leclerc is P7. Behind Carlos Sainz. Then it's Norris in P8. Ricciardo P9. Gasly is P10. And then you've got Kimi Räikkönen P11. Not looking that great in the Alfa Romeo. P12 is Alexander Albon. And now they've cut away from the screen, so now I've got to press the red button on Sky to check the order. But I just want to say as well, if my throat lasts, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, as I will be doing the qualifying watch along tomorrow morning at the same time for qualifying for the 2019 Chinese Grand Prix. So don't forget to subscribe. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there, or click on my channel name, go to my channel page and subscribe, and hit the notifications bell for more content like this. And also don't forget to like this video and comment down below what you thought of the results of practice 2, because of course if you're watching this after the stream is finished, you know what the results are. Yeah, you got Albon P12, and then you got Lance Stroll in P13. Perez is P14. And then Magnussen is P15. Haas are looking very poor. They've been consistently in this session down in like P14, P15, P16. Very poor they have been, honestly. But there you go. So Bottas is fastest currently, from Vettel second, Verstappen third, Hamilton fourth, and then Hülkenberg, Sainz, Leclerc, Norris, Ricciardo, Gasly. Then Raikkonen, Albon, Stroll, Perez, K-Mag, Grosjean, Giovinazzi, Kubica, Russell, and Kvyat. Kvyat has actually got out onto the track, which is nice to see. So we'll be seeing his first lap time of practice 2 in just a moment. But I think already, though, we also have some drivers on race simulations. I just saw Albon and Perez, I think, on their race simulations. So they're the first to blink when it comes to that. And also, just to prove really that the Ferrari power unit is on top, let me just show you this quickly interesting stat. Then I'll go back to the picture of the Haas with the front wing kind of falling off. This is the speed traps from practice so far. So the top 3 dominated by Ferrari, and there's a clear gap back to Albon, and then Ricciardo, Stroll, Perez, and then Bottas, Raikkonen, Hülkenberg. But yeah, Ferrari power clearly is looking the best, and that's not a surprise. That's not a surprise at all. There you go. But now we get into the race simulations, and I'll be honest, this is the most boring part of practice 2, but I'll try to keep you guys entertained with my throat that sounds like it's about to die. So I'll keep you guys entertained as long as I can. In the next, say, 45 minutes or so. I think there's about 45 minutes left in practice 2, I think. Let me just see. Well, they're not showing us at the moment, which is annoying. I have to say, and by the way, hello to Glenn Charlson in the chat. But for me, Sky F1's coverage is so bad. They're not showing us the right information. They keep doing this dual screen crap. Cutting away to stuff that doesn't really matter. It just, I don't get it. I don't get why they need to keep doing this. Let FOM control the broadcast. That's why they own the right to show the races on Sky F1 or any, TV company. The TV companies do not actually show the race. It's FOM who do that. And there's a reason, because they are so good at it. So, stop doing your own stuff to it and just let FOM do it. Because they're the professionals. Well, they do it in a much more professional way than Sky F1 do. So, there you go. Right, let me look. Let me look at some comments here, as we have 40 minutes left in practice 2. Nib says, well, what did I say when this Gasly move happened? Well, I think me and you both said, didn't we, that we didn't think he was the right man, but we didn't think it'd be this bad, did we? We didn't think that he would be, basically a second off his teammate, as he was in Bahrain, and as he has been so far this weekend. I mean, and as Nib said, and it's true, we thought, I think everyone was thinking this coming into the season. We knew Max, when it came to qualifying, was going to wipe the floor with Pierre Gasly. But I didn't think it would be this bad for Pierre. I didn't think he'd be a second off. Look, he's not as quick as Max, we know that. But he shouldn't be around a second off the pace. He should be 2.5 to 3 tenths of a second slower. If he was 2.5 to 3 tenths of a second slower, then he would be putting in acceptable performances in terms of pace. So if he did that, I think we'd be fine with how he was doing, but he's way too slow at the moment. I mean, in practice 2, without any errors, he is behind the 2 Renaults and the 2 McLarens, who are in, let's be honest, midfield cars. So, not good enough for Pierre Gasly. Kingslayer, time to get Alonso in that Red Bull. Yeah. Yeah. I would love to see Alonso in the Red Bull. I think everyone watching this stream, or anyone who watches this after this stream is finished, will say they would love to see that. But realistically, never going to happen, because Red Bull have 2 strong personalities. Or, well, not more than 2, but, they have 2 stronger personalities in that team. You've got Marco, Newey, Horner, Verstappen. List goes on. It just wouldn't work out at all. By the way, thank you to Glenn Charlson, who says, hey guys, Chazza tearing himself up to entertain us. Yep, I'm trying my best. Thanks for that. And then says, like this video. And also, thank you to, thanks for saying, that I rock, or that we all rock. So thanks for saying that. I really, really do appreciate it. If Max, this is from E7 Suspect, if Max leaves Red Bull, would have to swallow some pride and get a top driver, otherwise the drivers won't extract the most from the car. I see your point, but I think they're going to stick to their system that has worked for them, because look at the drivers they've had. Vettel, Ricciardo, Verstappen. You know, they've had great drivers. They should continue sticking to that system. And you know what? I've just thought of this. If Carlos Sainz continues with this speed, and also keeps up this, consistently over 2019, if Verstappen left and Carlos had 2 great years at McLaren, why not Carlos Sainz going to Red Bull with Verstappen not there? You never know. Could happen. I think it's pretty much apparent that Carlos Sainz and Max Verstappen cannot coexist in the same team at once. But if Verstappen left and Carlos had a couple impressive years, why not? I mean, who are they going to replace Max Verstappen with if they don't go with someone who was either a part of the academy, or who is currently part of the academy? I mean, the only driver they could replace Verstappen with is Sebastian Vettel. But I honestly don't think that's going to happen. I think if Vettel leaves Ferrari, he's probably going to go to, I don't know, Renault, maybe even McLaren. I don't think he'd go back to Red Bull. I just don't see that happening. So, yeah, why not? Why not? Sarah Vanan says Max is overrated. It depends on how you see him, really. If you don't think he's going to be one of the greatest of all time, or he doesn't have that amount of skill, then I understand that, because it is a pretty hefty rating of him. But I do believe that Max Verstappen has the talent and the skill to be one of the best drivers of all time. Whether he does show that or not, that's up to him. But we'll see. I mean, he's only, 21? So we've got plenty of time to see how he does. And then he also says Carlos will not be in the Red Bull. Why he need to, since McLaren is on the upward curve of performance. Can I just say one point? I'm not going to rip you for this, because I understand where you're coming from. But I've seen this a lot since Bahrain with McLaren. People saying, oh, McLaren, now they're, front of the midfield, they're back. And let's be honest, guys, McLaren have had one good race in Bahrain. One good race. They're not back. They're back when they get on the podium again, and because of genuine pace. That's when McLaren are back. And also, McLaren have not proved that they actually have that good of a car in the midfield consistently. Bahrain might just be a one-off, like it was for Toro Rosso in 2018. I mean, after Bahrain for Toro Rosso last year, you would have thought Toro Rosso were going to be right at the front of the midfield, but then at the next race in China, they were at the back. So one race doesn't mean that one team is terrible and one team is great. You need consistency. You can't just look at one race and say, well, they're great here, so they're great. Or they're good here, so they're good. You need to look at them consistently. McLaren, in 2019, they haven't proved yet that they've been consistently good enough to actually be set at the front of the midfield. I hope they are, because I want to see McLaren get back to the front and first, say, go to the front of the midfield. But it's yet to be seen. Again, Bahrain was great, but let's see what happens in the next 2 or 3 races. And if they're still good, then yeah, they're at the front of the midfield. But if they're back to, say, in the the deep end of the midfield, then can't really say they're back or that they're very good. So honestly, I would wait when it comes to McLaren. Mr. Random Guy says, to be fair, you said Alpha would struggle, so P11 isn't too bad. P11 is about where I would expect them to be at the absolute best. The absolute best I'd expect them to be is around P11. I don't think that car, in terms of one lap speed, is, say, a top 10 car in qualifying trim. In race trim, I think they can be a top 10 car, but qualifying trim, I don't think they have the speed to actually get in the top 10. Kingslayer says Raikkonen has been impressive this season. I think Kimi has been one of, I'm going to be honest, I think he's been one of the top 5 or 6 best drivers so far in 2019. For me, first 2 races, did very well, and has had 2 great results. So, there you go. By the way, I am actually paying attention to what is going on with the race simulations. Hamilton is actually doing a bit better on the race simulations than Verstappen is, lapping, I think, 2 to 3 tenths of a second faster at the moment. As Kvyat has actually now set a proper lap time and goes up to P16. So there you go. By the way, for anyone who's, throwing insults in the chat, just calm down a bit. I understand you want to debate stuff, but it doesn't need to get that far when it comes to that. So Kvyat has gone up to 16th. Grosjean going off the track at the final corner. That Haas has never once looked good to me this weekend so far. And I didn't expect them, and I don't expect them to be good this weekend. I mean, they're 15th and 17th. At the moment. That Haas car, as I predicted, is not good around this track. It never has been. So no surprise there. So Kvyat has gone up to 16th. Grosjean is now 17th. Giovinazzi has dropped down to 18th. Giovinazzi is having a terrible practice session. I know he had issues in practice 1, but he's 1.3 seconds slower than Kimi Raikkonen. That's nowhere near good enough. And by the way, I think so far we can say that Giovinazzi and Gasly are the most, say, underwhelming drivers this season, or they're underperforming the most. I think we can say that. I think we can say that. I think Giovinazzi and Gasly have to improve a lot if they want to keep their seat for next year, or even sooner than that. But yeah, Kvyat is now 16th, then Grosjean 17th, Giovinazzi 18th. Kubica is 19th, and then Russell is last in 20th. So there you go. As we continue with the race simulations, Magnussen is lapping very slowly in these race simulations on the soft tyres. The Haas car not looking good at all. So, yeah, not looking good at all there. Nib says Hamilton 4th because his lap got ruined by debris. No, he ran. If that's the lap you're talking about, he locked up and went wide at the hairpin. But I don't think it's actually been confirmed as to what tyre he was on for his fastest lap, but I think it was a soft tyre, but he just didn't do that good of a lap. Right, let me read out some more comments. By the way, if you're watching this after the stream is finished, if you want to see what I'm interacting with, the live chat, if you look to the right of the screen, if you're not in full screen, if you look to the right, you'll see the live chat replay, and then you can see exactly what I'm interacting with in this stream, so you're not completely in the dark as to what I'm actually talking about or who I'm talking to. Right. NN says or asks, Shazza, do you reckon Max has the talent to prove himself to be one of the greats and it's up to him? But what if it's also up to someone like Leclerc, of course, being in the right team too? With Max and Leclerc, it might play out in a similar way to Hamilton and Vettel. It might just be down sometimes, or most of the time, to who is in a better car. Because, I'll be honest, if you look at Hamilton and Vettel, Hamilton in the junior formula was always rated as being a better driver than Sebastian Vettel. Vettel was always rated as being a very good driver, but not as good as Lewis Hamilton. But the reason, Vettel won his championships and had a better chance of doing so than, say, Lewis Hamilton winning 4 titles was because Vettel got into a better car at the time in his career than Lewis Hamilton did. Hamilton didn't have a truly proper championship, winning car until 2014, I would say. Yeah, you got 2007, but 2007 McLaren definitely gained from the Spygate scandal, and I don't think any of the McLaren drivers or the team deserve to win that championship because they gained from Spygate. So that championship really is deserving for me, for Raikkonen and Ferrari. But, 2008, Hamilton, of course, won his first title, but that car wasn't the best car in the field. I think the Ferrari car that year was the best car, and he made quite a few mistakes that didn't help. But again, his car wasn't the best on the grid, I don't think. But if you compare their early careers, Vettel definitely had a better car, and that's why Vettel was able to have the success he did before Lewis Hamilton did, when people thought that Lewis would have 4 world titles by 2013, but it was Sebastian who did. That might play out the same with Verstappen and Leclerc, where if, say, Verstappen is better than Leclerc, but, say, Charles, because he's in a better car, if he does start winning championships, then maybe Charles will go down earlier on in their careers as a better driver in terms of stats. But if Max then later on in his career can get into the right car, then he can change it back to maybe how it should be, like Lewis Hamilton has done against Sebastian Vettel. So I think Verstappen and Leclerc are basically, in the 2020s, I think those two are going to be our Hamilton and Vettel. Leclerc, to me, is Sebastian Vettel with a calmer head. And then Max Verstappen is Lewis Hamilton, but with more aggression. And sometimes even more over-emotional than Lewis was. So I can't wait for that rivalry coming up very soon in Formula 1. And it is going to be, after Hamilton and Vettel, the next rivalry for sure. There's no doubt about that. Right, let me read out some more comments as nothing's really happening here in practice 2. Charles Leclerc's car is being worked on at the moment. I don't know why. Maybe there is an issue with the car, but I don't know what that issue is right now. Yeah, Charles Leclerc is currently P7 and stuck in the pits. Gina, how is Ferrari's race pace? I haven't really got a good eye of it yet, but I have seen that I think Mercedes have better race pace so far than Red Bull. Eugene Kelly, do you think Carlos is as good as Max? No, but if they want a short-term replacement, someone to fill a seat if Max does leave, I think Sainz would be a good driver to pick. Sebastian asks, who is looking good so far? That's a great question. Mercedes are looking good, even though maybe not fastest. Ferrari are looking good. Renault are looking pretty good. So McLaren. But after that, I'd say all the other teams aren't really looking that great. Red Bull, you could argue, but I don't think Red Bull are looking that great, honestly. I think they're looking about where we thought they would be. Of course, once Ferrari and Mercedes turn their power units up for qualifying, Red Bull will drop back into their normal position. But the teams that are not looking good is Racing Point and Haas. The other teams that I haven't mentioned are basically where I thought they would be, such as Toro Rosso, Alfa Romeo, And of course, Williams at the very back of the grid. Kingslayer, thoughts on Williams? They're crap. There's nothing else to say. Eugene Kelly, I think he's responding to someone else there. I've just answered Sebastian's question. I'm just looking through the chat to see what you guys are saying at the moment. Senoria, I think it is, says Vettel overrated, Ricciardo killed him in Red Bull. I think he killed a bit of his reputation. I wouldn't say he killed him, but you know what I mean. But yeah, that was a damaging year for Vettel. People saying 2012 of McLaren. Yeah, it was a championship winning car, but it was unreliable. And the team weren't reliable. Lewis did the best he could and had a pretty good year in 2012, but the team and the car was unreliable, so he couldn't do enough with what he had. And then, of course, lost confidence in McLaren and then left. And has not looked back since. Eugene Kelly, Hamilton could easily already have 6 to 7 titles if not for reliability in 2012 and 2016. Plus, could have won as a rookie. I've heard people make that argument. In my honest opinion, the amount of titles Lewis has is the amount he deserves if you look at his entire career. For me, 5 titles is what he deserves. I don't think he deserves any more or any less. I think Lewis has deserved to win the championship in the last 5, seasons before 2019. So 2014, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Any seasons before that, I don't think Hamilton did deserve to win the championship. But yeah, since the V6 turbo era began, I think Lewis has deserved to win all the championships, really. TD Emmanuel says, just look at Max qualifying. It's not that impressive. That's a bit shocking of you saying that. Of course, it's your opinion. You're entitled to it. But I definitely cannot agree with that. Max in qualifying is very, very good. But make sure to clarify why you think that. Why exactly do you think that? Why are you not impressed with Max's pace when it comes to qualifying? And we're seeing shots of the Ferrari right now, and they're cleaning up the floor underneath. So maybe there's an oil leak or something like that, a fuel leak, fuel system failure. Fuel pump, who knows? But it might be that area of the car. And Nib, by the way, confirms that it's a coolant issue, I think. NN says, Max is very good at qualifying. It's just that when the golden chances came for pole, someone upset him, such as Vettel at Mexico one year and Ricciardo. True, but I think people, honestly, were putting way too much pressure on Max getting pole position and being the youngest driver ever to get pole. The guy's 21. He has, 15 years left in his F1 career. He doesn't need to be the youngest driver to be on pole position. He doesn't need to be. You don't get points for qualifying. You get points for the race. And if you noticed, in those 2 races you mentioned, who won the Grand Prix? Oh yeah, Max Verstappen. By a mile. Both times. So, yeah, he didn't get pole. But if he wins the race, does anyone bloody care? No. And nor really should anyone care. Because qualifying doesn't really matter if you then go on and win the Grand Prix or win whatever battle you're in. If you're in the midfield battle, if you go and finish at the front of the midfield, then your qualifying result, fades into insignificance. So yeah, on those occasions for Max, he has been disappointing at the very end of qualifying, but he went on to then dominate the Grand Prix. So I can't really rag against the guy for missing out on pole a couple of times. I just want to show this. This is Vettel I believe, complaining about being held up on a lap on his race simulations behind a racing point. So there you go. Yeah, definitely held up. I think it's clear to see that for sure. Right, let me find some more comments in regards to other things, other debates going on in the chat. By the way, we have about 15 minutes left in practice 2. The running order for practice 2 is running along the bottom of your screen. So Bottas is fastest, from Vettel, then Verstappen, Hamilton, Hülkenberg, Sainz, Leclerc, Norris, Ricciardo, Gasly, Raikkonen, and then Albon, then Stroll, then Perez, then Magnussen, then Kvyat, then Romain Grosjean, then Antonio Giovinazzi, and then the 2 Williamses of Kubica and Russell. And hopefully I don't jinx myself, but I think my throat is better now. It feels a lot better than it did about half an hour ago. Half an hour ago, it felt like I was on fire. But now it feels a bit better. So hopefully I can continue this stream with this level of level of soreness. But yeah, there you go. Yeah, let me read out some more comments. Kartik, I think it is. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. I'm horrible with names, I am. Asks, really, Vettel had the best car out there when he won the championship? No, it's not, and that's why Hamilton getting a bit more hate out there, as he is always in the winning car. No, I can't agree with that. Lewis Hamilton has only been in the best car, for me, in my opinion, in 5 seasons in his entire career. 2012, 2014, 2015, 2016, and 2017, but only just. 5 years where Lewis Hamilton had the best car. And I disqualified 2007 because Spygate, and McLaren clearly gained from the information they acquired from Ferrari. So that is, disqualified. But there is 5 seasons where Lewis Hamilton had the best car in Formula 1. Vettel has had the best car in 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'd say 2009 as well, because if you take out the first 7 races, I think Red Bull had the best car in 2009. Braun only had the best car up until Turkey, and then after that, Red Bull had the best car. So they've both equally had the best car the same amount of times in their career. And Lewis has one more championship than Sebastian Vettel, and has, more pole positions by quite a bit. I think, really Hamilton has proved that, in the last couple of seasons especially, that he is better than Vettel. I don't think there's any debate to that. Mr. Random Guy says, I feel if Vettel and Ricciardo were in the same team now, Vettel will beat him in qualifying but will be close in the race. Vettel, I don't think, adapted very well in 2014, so it'd be nice to see them now in equal cars. If they raced again in the same team, then it would confirm who is actually the better driver out of those two. Because after 2014, you'd be forgiven for thinking that Ricciardo was or is better than Sebastian Vettel, but because we didn't have a second season to really see absolutely consistently who is the better driver, we can't absolutely call it and say who is the better driver. So yeah, it would be great to see, but I don't think it will ever happen, honestly. Sebastian asks, are Mercedes using higher modes than Ferrari, or is it just close? I think Ferrari do tend in practice to sandbag a bit more than Mercedes do. They both sandbag a lot compared to Red Bull. But I think Ferrari could definitely go faster than what they have. And I think Ferrari are still, because of the immense power they have on the back straight or in the final sector of the lap, I think Ferrari are still the favourites for pole position tomorrow, but it will be a bit closer than some of you think, because I think Mercedes have a better car in the first 2 sectors of the track. Ivan Jones asks for a weather forecast. I believe that it is going to be a dry weekend. No rain is forecasted, I don't think, or if there is, it's very little of a chance of the rain actually coming to the track. So there you go. Finley says, I'd argue the 2018 and even the 2017 Ferrari was faster. This is the thing, the 2017, for me, the Mercedes car was faster, but you could argue that Ferrari had a better car because it was that close. And look at how Hamilton won that championship. Interestingly, Vettel put up a better fight in the 2017 title battle than he did in 2018. And 2018, he had a better car than he had in 2017. And I think that does show that, I think the Singapore start line crash was really the start of Sebastian Vettel's downfall, because he was leading the championship from race 1 up until post-race at the Italian Grand Prix, and then the next race was Singapore, and we have a start line crash which Vettel caused. So yeah, I think if you look where his downfall started, it was definitely Singapore. I don't think Baku is where it started. I think Singapore is where it really started. As of late, Ricky Sanguinetti says, you really sound reasonable in your judgment. Keep it up. Thank you very much. Sanoria says, Lewis is amazingly fast, but he gets nervous against a strong challenge and is beatable. For example, Rosberg. I disagree with that. Look at how he made Rosberg in 2015. He turned Rosberg into what Vettel is now, a very nervous, almost a nervous wreck at times when they race wheel to wheel. So I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. There were times where Rosberg got the better of Hamilton, but in wheel to wheel combat, most of the time it was Lewis Hamilton who got the better. So there you go. Just trying to read out some more comments. By the way, we have about 8 minutes left in practice 2. If you want to know what the running order is, the exact live running order is running along the bottom of your screen. And I just want to sorry, I've just seen a comment in the chat from NN. Just talk more, that cures sore throats. Yeah, I'm going to try and just keep talking, but I just wanted to say, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, as this time tomorrow I will be live for the qualifying watch along for the 2019 Chinese Grand Prix. So don't forget to subscribe for that. Coming tomorrow morning, bottom right of the screen, you can click subscribe right there, or click on my channel name, go to my channel page and subscribe, and also hit the notifications bell for more content like this. But I'll read out some more comments. Good morning to JB. TD Emmanuel says Lewis was one impetuous rather. I absolutely butchered that. But is now mentally bulletproof. Absolutely. Eugene Kelly says Rosberg wasn't a threat to Hamilton. Reliability lost him the 2016 championship. Absolutely. I honestly think, I don't think anyone out there could present me a strong enough argument to suggest that Nico Rosberg deserved to win the 2016 title. I don't think anyone out there could present me a strong enough case or argument for that. Because Lewis Hamilton lost the championship because of reliability issues. Now, Rosberg did have his best season ever. Hamilton wasn't amazing in 2016, but was still pretty good. But over the course of the season, Lewis was the better driver. he was the better driver in 2016. There's no doubt about that for me. Eugene Kelly asks why you think Rosberg retired. He said it himself that he couldn't utter or come up with the strength to compete against Hamilton again. I think there were some different reasons, but I think the main reason was because he didn't want to compete still with Lewis Hamilton in that team, because after 2015, I think he saw what we all saw was that Mercedes was becoming Lewis Hamilton's team, and now is Lewis Hamilton's team. And if he stayed Rosberg, I don't think he would have beat Hamilton again. I don't think lightning would have struck twice, if you know what I mean. But we now have 5 minutes left. In practice 2, Sebastian Vettel is on the hard compound tyre at the end of the first sector at the moment. I don't actually know what lap times the Ferrari is doing, but I will say every time you go on board with the Ferrari in the parts of the track where the aerodynamics is important, it doesn't look that settled or that good, does the Ferrari? It has the power, but not necessarily the grip. And that might be something to watch out for, not only for this weekend, but for 2019, because I think we're starting to see a trend. I think, I'm going to throw this out there. I'm not absolutely, as he runs wide at turn 12 slightly, I'm not absolutely saying this, like, confirming this is the way things are. But I think it's a battle between Mercedes and their aerodynamics versus Ferrari and their power. I think this championship battle is aero versus power. The Ferrari aero is good, but I think they're making their time up in power. I don't think they're making the time up in chassis or aero. I think the power that they have is what is giving them the lap time to be as quick as they are. And I think Mercedes have a better aerodynamic car right now. They just look to me to have a better aerodynamic car. Looks to be better in the faster corners where you need good aero. Ferrari just have the power. I guess at times to stay ahead. Right, let me read out some more comments as we're seeing a replay here of Bottas passing Lance Stroll down into turn 6, I believe, and getting held up, and then having to dive down the inside of Lance. Toro Loco says, then that gives Ferrari an advantage because it's easier. Let me just read that, because it just went up a minute. Because it's easier to upgrade aero than power. Yes, indeed. If you have, in current Formula 1, if you have that much more power that Ferrari apparently do have, which is apparently a 0.4 of a second, if that is true, then that does give them an advantage over Mercedes, because there are more tracks on the calendar where more power will favour you more so than good aero in terms of qualifying speed. Because, I mean, you've got this race with a long back straight, you got Baku, the whole final sector is on throttle. The first sector is, 2 DRS straights. You got Spain, the long pit straight there, even though that track is a bit more important to the aerodynamics. Monaco, aerodynamics. Canada, power circuit. France, kind of a power circuit, but also kind of about aero as well. It's a similar track, Paul Ricard, to Shanghai. But then Austria, power track. Silverstone is a power track now. Hockenheim, power track. Hungary, aerodynamics. And then Spa, Monza, power tracks. You see what I'm talking about? There's a lot more tracks on the calendar which at the moment would favour more power than aero, or better aero over power. So looking good for Ferrari. what they need to do is just maintain that gap in horsepower they do have, but keep, if they can, improving the aerodynamics and the chassis of the car, so that then maybe, just maybe, they can, say, at aerodynamic tracks where you don't think they're going to be that good, pull it back on Mercedes and be even faster there. So we will see. Finley, what happens to Hulkenberg's career if he keeps thrashing Ricciardo? Oh, come on. He's not thrashing him. Come on. Let's wait till qualifying of the Grand Prix. By the way, we are into the final 15 seconds of practice 2 as Valtteri Bottas is on a lap on the hard compound tyre. This tyre might be a bit useful on race day if it's a bit hot, but we'll have to see what it's like on race day. Let's see what his lap time is. It's a 30. That's quite good. That's a 39.1. And he's been on a long stint as Valtteri Bottas. As now, guys, practice 2 has officially finished. Practice 2 has officially finished. So there you go. Valtteri Bottas, fastest of all from Sebastian Vettel in second. And in third is Max Verstappen. I'll throw up one final picture if I can find it. One good final picture to end the stream on. So let me just quickly, if I can find that now. But yeah, Bottas, fastest of all from Vettel second. And Max Verstappen in third. And I've got a picture of a certain team that are maybe looking a bit better than people were expecting, or certainly I was expecting, coming out of practice 2. They're looking a bit more competitive and a bit closer to a certain team on the grid. So, let me just lower that so you can keep the running order there. I think the story is, at the top, that Mercedes are closer to Ferrari than we previously thought. And I think it's pretty simple. Ferrari have the power, Mercedes have the grip. That is what it's going to be a battle of in qualifying and the Grand Prix. And I think that's what is going to be so key, especially on race day, because, you know, grip, you need grip, you know, to manage tyres. But if Ferrari can do that and have the straight line speed that they do have, then they can maybe pull the gap to them, but you don't know. But to me, Mercedes do look to have the grip advantage over Ferrari. But will that translate into pole position? I'm not too sure it will, but we can, of course, be surprised tomorrow in qualifying. But the final running order, practice 2, is as follows. Valtteri Bottas is fastest of all from Sebastian Vettel in second. Max Verstappen is third. Lewis Hamilton is fourth. Nico Hulkenberg is fifth with Carlos Sainz in P6. Charles Leclerc is P7. Norris is P8. Ricciardo is P9. Gasly is in P10. Then it is Raikkonen P11. Albon P12. Stroll P13. Perez P14. Magnussen P15. 16th place is Danny Kvyat. 17th place Romain Grosjean. 18th Antonio Giovinazzi. And then at the back, the two Williamses of Robert Kubica and George Russell. But there you go. That is practice 2. And I'll read out some final comments from you guys in the chat. And then I'll come to the end of this stream. Nib saying, nah, Chaz, you need to understand 3/10 gap in practice is thrashing. Yeah, that's not the case. If you're half a second faster, then that's a thrashing, but not quarter of a second. No way. Absolutely no way. Astro Stevo. He's just commenting on the Ricardo Hulkenberg. As Vettel stops a bit abruptly in the pit lane there. He's just commenting on the Ricardo Hulkenberg stuff. Nib saying that the Leclerc issue is some sort of leak, looked like a coolant leak. Yeah, looked something similar to that. Gina says Vettel was faster on hard tyres than Bottas. Okay. Depends on the track and circumstances, doesn't it? Exactly. Some drivers just thrive at certain tracks in certain conditions, and some cars also thrive in certain conditions. But in regards to the Hulkenberg-Ricardo debate, I don't think Ricardo will really care at the moment. He will be happy if he could qualify inside the top 10. Looking good for Renault, but I think they will drop back in qualifying because we've seen this plenty of times, you know, good in practice, terrible in qualifying, but then good in the race. So I'm still not expecting them to be that special in qualifying. Hopefully they are, but I'm not expecting it. But I am going to end on a comment from Eugene Kelly, who is new to the chat. And if you are new, by the way, Eugene, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. You've asked some great stuff. Says it's going to take more than power for them to win. They need to be more consistent than Mercedes, and I doubt that because history shows they crack under pressure. Absolutely. You may have the power, you may have the faster car, but if you don't have the ability to get the results or the ability to get the job done, then at the end of the day, you're just going to end up with the same result, finishing in second place. And for Ferrari this season, second place is, quite frankly, not good enough. They have to win the championship this year for it to be a successful season. If Ferrari don't win the championship, 2019 has been a failure. It is as simple as that. But there you go, guys. That is your practice to watch along. And now I come to the end of the stream. But guys, thank you for coming along for this practice to watch along. Again, massive apologies about my throat. I tried my best. It has improved. I will do everything in my power to help my throat out before I go on live again tomorrow morning for the qualifying watch along, and then again the qualifying review. So I will try to improve it the best I can, but if it happens again, then, you know, there's nothing I can do. But yes, sorry about that, but I did try my best, and hopefully I entertained you on what is, for most of you, probably an early morning, no matter where you are, say, on the western side of the world. I know we have some people from the eastern side. No matter where you're on the world, thank you for coming along. But I think some of you are up at quite an early time for you, no matter, or not no matter where you're on the world, but where you are in the world, because I think some of you are from, again, the western side. So thank you guys for coming along at a very early time, and thanks for every single person coming along, even if it's a very sociable time in your country. But guys, don't forget to subscribe for the qualifying watch along tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. UK time. I will be live at 6 a.m. UK time for the qualifying watch along live on the channel. Then the qualifying review will be around 11 a.m. UK time until 12 p.m. UK time on Saturday. So don't forget to subscribe for that. You can either do it on the bottom right of the screen, or you can click on my channel name, go to the home page, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell for that content. Also, like this video, comment down below what you thought of this video, and what do you think will happen in qualifying? Who do you think has the pace? Is it Ferrari? Is it Mercedes? Who at the midfield is looking good? Out of Renault, McLaren, Alfa, Toro Rosso, Haas, who's looking good in the midfield? Let me know in the comments. Also, don't forget to join my Discord server, link below in the description. That is the best place to get notifications for my videos, and that is the hardcore Chaz HDF1 community. So if you want to join that, link below in the description. I think it is third from bottom, the link to that. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Chaz6110. And check out my website, chazahd.com, for more content like this. But guys, until the qualifying watch along tomorrow at 6 AM UK time live on the channel, it has been me, ChazzaHD. Goodbye.